Hello everyone, and welcome to Viv and Dave's Real Voices of Happy Valley. We normally talk to an interesting person.
But today you're talking to me.
I didn't mean it to come out like that.
That's all right.
No, I'll start again. Hello everyone, and welcome to Viv and Dave's podcast Real Voices of Happy Valley. As you know, we normally talk, one or the other of us, or both, to somebody about interesting things they do. And it's a bit of a departure today, but because Dave's just had a birthday and we've been watching the Women's World Cup, I thought I'd talk to him about his life in football.
My lengthy experience of football goes back a long time.
Certainly does. And so we'll start off by asking you, the football team you play with at the moment, and he does still play, everyone, is the over 50s, and that follows on from him playing with the Old Gits. So do you want to tell us about that, Dave?
Yeah, well, the Old Gits is a bunch of, would you believe, old gits who used to meet up and drink in the Nut Clough when it was still a pub, talk largely about football, and then they decided that wouldn't it be nice to go off and play football. So they started at Mythen Road Community Centre and then moved to London C of E School many years ago. So they're even older gits now. During the pandemic, it all stopped. And when it started up again, it started up like a lot of other things very slowly. Not everybody felt comfortable or safe going out.
Or fit.
Or fit, that's right, that's true.
Been ill.
Although fitness is questionable generally with the Old Gits. So when some of the older ones got back there, found out it was full of young lads. And rather than say, "Oi, get off our pitch, you young lads," I decided we'd just start again.
So the young lads hadn't just turned up and taken people's places. They were there to make up numbers while the rest of you weren't around?
Yes, they were all invited in there.
That's what I meant to say, they were invited.
Like a lot of things to do with the pandemic, it was all very different afterwards than it was before. So it didn't suit us anymore, chasing around after young men in their teens and 20s. It's just too much hard work, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
And it can be dangerous, trying to get to the ball before some fit young bugger. Somebody, particularly the old guys, that like to get hurt unintentionally. So thought, well, I'll put something up on Facebook and on the Trades Club's Facebook page saying if you're over 50, you fancy playing football still or again, and you're not a Tory, come along and join us. And so we started up on Tuesday nights instead of Wednesdays.
And did you get a good response?
Yes, very good response. In some cases, but very enthusiastic response for the first sort of week or two, and then they realised that they were pulling muscles and aching so much in the morning that perhaps that was why they'd stopped playing football donkey's years previously.
Yeah.
But we got a core of somewhere up between sort of 10 and 20. Usually get about a dozen or so. And like when we were kids, we turn up, pick teams, play for an hour or so. Although I must admit, when we were kids, we probably played all day.
Yeah.
But now we play for an hour or so and then go to the pub.
Sounds a splendid way for grown men to enjoy themselves.
It is. And because there's no Tories, it's a nice chat afterwards, and nobody strongly disagrees with anybody.
Yeah. And presumably you all have your different football teams that you follow. Does that cause aggravation?
Not really, no. Because actually there's probably more Everton supporters for some reason than anything else.
Including you?
Yes, including me. Handful of City supporters. Really, City are one of the elite of clubs in the world, and Everton or not. So there's not really much to worry about. A friendly rivalry. But then we have people who support Colchester and Coventry City
and Halifax
Town. Possibly the most fanatical of the two support Halifax Town, as they should. They're local boys, and you should always support your local team.
Yeah. So when you were younger, before you joined the Old Gits, you were in Hebden Bridge Aliens, weren't you?
Yes, I was player manager for the Aliens for a while. They were the team of the Trades Club. And Aliens was quite a good name for them, because they were alien in many of their ways, and winning and gaining points was also alien to them. But what a lovely bunch of lads.
Yeah, and you're still friends with
yes,
a few of them, aren't
yeah,
you?
one or two of them play with the over 50s now.
Yeah.
'Cause they were all about 30-ish when I joined up with them. I was in my early to mid 40s, having sort of fairly recently arrived in Hebden Bridge. Got to know them. Actually, we watched a cup final at the Trades Club, and then all went out with a ball to play afterwards. Again, a bit like you used to do when we were kids.
Yeah. And when we moved to Hebden Bridge, as you say, you were in your early to mid 40s then, but you'd been involved in football in Oldham, where we'd lived before that, hadn't you, for 12 years or so?
Well, I've been involved in football since I was a kid, basically. I first went to Goodison Park to watch Everton in about 1964. Knew someone who had a season ticket, and you could go to the reserve matches as well as the main matches then. So, when we were kids, somebody used to sort of give us a season ticket, and we'd go and watch Everton reserves every other week.
Yeah.
And pay to go in the boys' pen, sixpence to get in the boys' pen. And there'd be like 60,000 people there, and right tucked away in the corner was just a bunch of lads, basically, and young lads at that.
Yeah.
So it was all great fun. As soon as I was able to kick a ball, though, I started. I played for the school, St Dominic's Catholic Secondary Modern School. Generally as a centre half, because I was taller than most of the other boys, and they were more skillful than me, so they used to kick the ball around in front of me, and my job was to, as Jack Charlton once said, my job was not to play football, it was to stop other people from doing it.
Just wade in.
Yes, which I was very successful at, to an extent anyway. Although never got the impression I was particularly good at football, because I couldn't get into the Heighton boys team.
But as it turns out, it was a pretty, high skilled team.
They were at the time the national champions, and there was a scrawny little kid called Peter Reid, who I keep saying kept me out of the team, because he was in the position I wanted to play. He went on to play in the World Cup for England and won trophies with Everton and played for Bolton Wanderers.
So it's no disgrace to be ousted by the likes of him, is it really?
No. Absolutely. And after that I sort of played for various interesting teams. I played for Wellington Road Mission in Liverpool, which is some kind of a church. It's some kind of Protestant church, but quite what kind of Protestant church, I don't know. On the theme of playing for religious organisations, in Hardman Street in Liverpool there's a Food for All whole food shop.
I remember that, yeah. I went in and asked for Wesley because I didn't know how it was pronounced.
True, yes. And it was run by a bunch of guys who were worshippers or whatever the term is, followers of Ananda Marg. I don't know, I've no idea what Ananda Marg stood for, some kind of Indian Eastern religion. I know some of their monks set fire to themselves for one reason or another. I'm a bit worried that we might have to do that if we lost too many games. But that was quite interesting, and used to play on Walton Hall Park and Sefton Park. But Walton Hall Park was like dozens and dozens of pitches, and hundreds of footballers will be in the changing rooms getting changed, and people would wander around saying, An undermarg? What's that? Are we playing them? What is it?
Against United Welders and bricklayers and people.
Yes, we did play. An undermarg versus United Welders was a bit of a tough match. Yes. Yes, but as I say, they were an interesting bunch, and they mostly were Scousers, but they took Indian-style names. So I once phoned up Jack R. Prakash to see where the game was the following Saturday. Mrs. Prakash answered the phone, and it turned out she neither used the name Prakash nor used the name Jack R. Prakash for him, as she just turned and shouted, "Kevin, someone on the phone for you, it's another one of those people." I did say to her, I'm only a footballer.
Yeah.
But I think they all had names like that except me and James from Glasgow. We were there making up the numbers and actually, to be quite honest, providing the skill in the team at that point. But we played in the Business Houses League, which is quite a high level. Yes. And when we moved down to East Anglia, that was great fun. I played village football. Played for Leverington, Parson Drove, Guy Hearn. And Parson Drove was and Leverington's quite a reasonable sort of level. We would be travelling all over sort of Norfolk and Cambridgeshire, North Cambridgeshire anyway. So the northern bit of East Anglia. To play against other people's villages, and that was really nice because everywhere had a village green, which football in the winter, cricket in the summer, and a village hall frequently with a bar, and the village would come out and support you, which was nice, particularly if you did well and worked hard for them. So that was all right. Played against King's Lynn reserves. Might not mean very much to you.
Well, King's Lynn does, but
yeah, they were in the eastern counties, so we were one level below them. So that's probably about 3 or 4 levels below the actual National Football League.
Yeah.
So I suppose I played for somewhere around about Division 10 or 12. Right. A long time ago.
Well, it's a good community thing there, isn't it? Well, in most places,
it is, and it's really lovely when you're playing for the village, and you are part of the community, and community is always important to me, because the game itself it's a community game. It's Bill Shankly once said it's a socialist game. You work hard for your teammates. You all work hard for each other, and if you do well and you're united, then you get the results. So it's football clubs tend to be owned by utter capitalist scoundrels, but it is at heart a socialist game. You've seen my T-shirt.
Your Albert Camus one.
T-shirt, yes. It says on the front, "Everything I must most surely know about morality and obligation I owe to football." And it's not just a beautiful game, it's a game where you support each other.
Yeah. And
communities support their teams, whether it's of Scousers going to watch Everton in Liverpool, or it's the people of Parson Drove in East Anglia going to their village green. It's really nice.
Yeah, and since then you've played and managed the Oldham UB40 team of unemployed not kids.
Well, they were sort of unemployed men, and worked in a community centre, ran a community centre in Oldham, and with guys who were doing similar jobs across the northwest of England, we created the Northwest Unemployed Football League for guys who were sort of like unemployed, basically. This is the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
And we were taken on by John Platt, who was running the community programme at Oldham Athletics. So we became Oldham Athletics community programme team.
Yeah.
Which was really nice, particularly as mostly local boys. They supported Oldham Athletics. They'll be able to play on Oldham Athletics pitch, which is plastic at the time, and go and play away games at Preston North End's ground in their Oldham Athletic kit, and they were absolutely thrilled.
Yeah.
It was a marvellous experience.
Your life in football has been quite extensive and long, and now we find ourselves with women's football having finally captured the imagination of the country years after you and Ian Wright, as it turns out, were championing it, and what a competition it's been.
It's absolutely fantastic. I've been watching women's football, England's women's football team, the Lionesses, for, I don't know, 15 years or more. It was at the time, it was like only the occasional England women's game would be on the television. It's difficult to see it otherwise.
Yeah.
Did take our Kathy to Oldham Athletic women's and girls team, and she played for them for a couple of times. So basically it was difficult to get sort of 2 women's football games. Now, over the last few years, the last 2 or 3 World Cups, it's really taken off, and I've gone from just being able to watch 2 or 3 games a year to, at the moment, watching 2 or 3 games a day with the Women's World Cup on.
And I'm not into football particularly. Yeah, we managed to rub along, don't we? But I'm not into it. But I have been enjoying the women's games, and I know that you go to Manchester City's women's games when in the season,
yes,
and when they're at home.
Yes, our Kathy, eldest daughter, her eldest son Manny, and a couple of their friends and their kids. With them, we go off to the Academy Stadium, just across the road from Manchester City's main ground, and I've been watching the women there since a couple of years before the pandemic started, so probably about 5-6 years altogether. And it is great fun. It's an awful long time since I've been to a professional men's match.
Well, it's so expensive apart from anything else.
Which is partly why I never went. Used to take Kathy there mainly. When we lived in Oldham, we'd get the paper in the morning, what games are on in the Greater Manchester area, and we'd sort of, we'd go to them. It was always great because taking kids, because the guys on the turnstiles, it's always the rule was always if the kid's small enough to lift over the turnstile, you don't have to pay for them. Which was always fun. Now so we go and watch Manchester City women, and the atmosphere is fantastic. The size of the crowd has gone from around about 2,000 to around about 5,000 since the girls won the Euros last year. But you can sit a couple of seats away from somebody who's singing songs about Arsenal being her favourite team, or Birmingham City or Chelsea or whoever it was, and never any hassle or problems. And it's great to hear people singing about their team is the best team in the world. As football supporters, we all do that. We know our team is not the best team in the world, and I might be there. I've been there shouting, Everton, they're the greatest team in the world. They never have been. They never will be.
But they're your team.
But that's right. They're my team, and that's why you support them. So it's always been fun, and I've always tried to do my best. You told me recently about something Bob Donnelly once said about me.
Yeah, Bob Donnelly.
He was managing Parsons Rove at the time.
Yeah, he was somebody I knew, a Scotsman who I worked with, and he said, your Dave's great in the games, that he's not the most skillful player I've ever seen, but he gives 110%.
And the 110% is the amount of percent that you have in football. You'll hear it quite a lot. Some people believe, mathematicians seem to think that percentage only goes up to 100, but in football you can go way beyond that.
And long may you carry on enjoying it.
Right, okay. It's been fun. You're showing some interest in me footballing life.
Yes, I thought I'd make up for the 40 odd years that I've shown no interest.
No,
that's not true.
You've
always supported your participation.
Yeah, you have, and it's not really just taking time away from your family. It's going away and having a sort of a great time playing football, and then you can bring back some news of the game to your family, even though sometimes you don't seem very interested in how the game has gone.
Yeah.
But we had plenty of examples of lads play football largely because they're wanted out of the house. I remember the much missed and lamented Awen telling me that Drew could not be dropped because the Hebden Bridge Aliens played on Sunday mornings, same time as the Archers omnibus was on the radio, and he was not to be at home at that time.
I sympathise with Awen for that one. Yeah,
absolutely, a marvellous woman in all ways. Right, so there you go.
Yeah, so Hope you enjoyed that. And next time we'll be speaking to someone who doesn't live in our house. But yeah, that was fun.
Next time I'll talk to somebody interesting.
Just as interesting.
This is our podcast is about all the people being of the valley. It's based on all the people of the valley being interesting in their own way.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
So we'll have to talk to you about some of your interests
We'll
at some point. At some point.
Yeah.
Okay. And finally, Facebook page.
Yeah. Have a look on it.
Yeah, the Facebook. We have a Facebook page. Real Voices of Happy Valley. Go on there, like it, follow it. Whatever podcast outlet or platform or whatever they're called you listen to this on, follow us and then you'll know about more.
And if you're interested in chatting to us yourselves, get in touch.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.